breaststroke you're working on, it will affect something else.
What tends to happen in the breaststroke is what your head does, your body will follow. The hips are naturally lowered when the head comes up out of the water. So it's kind of like whatever the head does, the hips will do the opposite.
I try and do a little bit of a dolphin motion when I do breaststroke. Like I come up pretty high at the beginning part of my stroke. My shoulders are out of the water. And then at the recovery part of my stroke, I have my head down and I reach forward as far as I can, and my hips come up. And then my hips go down and my hips come up.
You need the power of the power phase, the inward skull, to get the body up out of the water for a breath. And then as the arms are extending out front, you lose the foundation, your head also goes back down into the water.
Timing is the term used for the interconnection of the pull and the kick. Proper timing is achieved when the coordination of the arms and legs is at maximum efficiency. The kick recovery causes a great deal of drag. The pull recovery causes the same sort of backward propulsion. The key to proper timing is to counter the negative movements with alternate power movements.
If you breathe on it wrong, your timing can get screwed up. And my timing was something I worked on day in and day out. And I think almost any breaststroker will tell you that timing never comes easily. It's always something that you need to work on. The underwater extension from under the hands coming under the chin and out in front of the body needs to be covered up with a positive movement, being the kick. And vice versa, the recovery of the kick when the legs are brought up to your rear end, that needs to be countered by the power phase of the pull. The common mistake of not bringing up the legs early enough, the reason that that's a mistake in timing is that the two negative movements overlap. The importance of technique never diminishes, no matter how good you are. You always have to work on technique. Just because I achieved a certain level of swimming didn't mean that I was able to sit back on my laurels and not keep my technique in check.
And I'm constantly working on it in practice every day. Every day there's something wrong with it.
Don't try to work on too many things at once because you will get confused. Perfect your stroke by adjusting one thing at a time and then move on to something else when you feel comfortable. If you are diligent with your little changes, soon you will see improvement with your entire stroke.
Backstroke's funny. You always look up at the sky when you're swimming. And to some people, that's unnerving.
It was very natural to me. And I always liked it because I had my face out of water and I could see where I was going. I could look at the sky.
People, I think, have been discouraged by backstroke because they can't see what's going on around them.
Training at Stanford, we're in one of the flight paths to SFO, and I used to always watch the planes fly overhead. It was great.
Kim Carlisle is a 1980 Olympian and three-time NCAA champion. She was captain of the 1983 Stanford National Championship team and is a Masters national record holder in the backstroke. Sean Murphy is a 1988 Canadian Olympian and a two-time NCAA champion. He was on 3 national championship teams while swimming for Stanford and is the former Commonwealth record holder in the 100-meter backstroke.
The way you want to think about starting out the stroke, it's really, I think of it in terms of a pull through your body, through the center of your body. And in backstroke, you really rotate around that pull.
So your head and your spine form a straight, fixed axis, and then everything rotates from side to side around it. One place a lot of backstrokers could improve is in the entry, which should be a very soft little finger first entry, because then it gets your hand in the perfect optimal position to grasp onto as much water as possible. So it's a real smooth, it's like a knife entry into the water.
Your entry for your hand should really go in, if you're a clock, at 1 o'clock and 11 o'clock.
So you're essentially forming a V on either side of your head with your hands. I go back to the analogy again of the center line along the back of your head or through your body, the axis. And if your hand crosses over that axis, you're going to push yourself from side to side, from left to right. And also, there's a lot of wasted motion in that.
A common mistake made during the entry and extension phase is overreaching. This is when the hand crosses over the center line of the body. It is wasted movement since the hand is pushing water out instead of back.
The catch is crucial. That's where it really all begins. It's like in basketball, the layup starts with how you approach the net, and a good setup will result in a good follow-through.
The roll and this really helps you to stretch and then get a good catch at the top of the stroke underwater, and then you're in good position to begin the pull.
You're actually going in at the 1 o'clock angle and then driving your hand down. So for the first phase of your stroke, you're not really catching water necessarily. You're getting your hand in the right position. And really, the water at a deeper point is better water to grab.
If the body does not roll, then the hand cannot plunge into the water. This is due to the physiological limitations of the shoulder joint. When the body is rolled properly, the hand and arm will easily reach back under the surface to grab the water.
The simplest thing to think about is just that you need to always be holding on to water.
When you view the backstroke from an underwater camera, you'll see the hand sink down, and then as you squeeze your elbow and press with your palm, the hand actually comes back up closer to the surface of the water.
The first point to think about is to keep your elbow up.
Many swimmers have a tendency to lead with their elbows. This causes the water to slide off the arm, reducing surface area and resulting in less propulsive force.
If you lead your pull with your elbow, you're going to reduce a lot of the area on your arm that you can pull through. Your arm is a lever, and the more area you can use, the faster you're going to propel yourself.
The feeling of swimming backstroke correctly is that you're squeezing your elbows into your sides and bringing your palms in right behind your elbow. You almost have like an upside-down S motion with your hand. And that's really where the power comes in.
The propulsion generated during the power phase continues all the way through the finish. This motion is very quick and explosive, ending with a final flick of the wrist.
As my roll finishes, my arm naturally flicks at the end. And that's why you get that extra shoulder roll. It's almost like a pop. And your shoulder pops out. And you want to have the shoulder out of the water, because if it's not out here, it's in the water, and it's pushing against it, and it's more resistance.
You've got the shoulder coming out of the water and the opposite arm entering the water, and so that finish helps push the other side of your body through the stroke and to get that next catch in place for the pull.
The recovery of any stroke must be smooth and fluid. In backstroke, when the arm is recovering, the shoulder arcs up towards the chin. As the arm approaches entry, it smoothly dips back into the water.
So it's a cycle. While one arm's doing something, the other arm is also sort of in an opposite phase. As you pull through on your pull, your other arm is recovering.
And when you watch a good backstroker, you can see their shoulders pop up, as I like to describe it, in their face almost. I mean, I can look down and see my shoulder. And then your recovery is it's a straight arm through the air and then back into the water.
In other words, as my shoulder is rolling, my other arm is driving deep, and that creates the roll of my body.
So it's like one side is helping the other do what it's supposed to do.
I find that the better kickers are usually better backstrokers.
Backstroke is really a kicking stroke.
What you really want to kick from is your hips. Your hips and your upper thighs are what controls the motion of your legs, not your knees.
The biggest mistakes backstrokers make is you see people overkick, and what I mean by overkicking is when you see these big knees coming out of the water.
Both legs running in a sort of running bicycle fashion creates a loss of power.
When the primary leg motion comes from the knees, water is merely being pushed up and down rather than back. This does little for forward propulsion and makes for a flimsy stroke foundation.
I think the top of your foot acts like what your palm acts like on the pull. That's where you move the water. And so you don't want to have your knees locked. You want to have them slightly bent so that the shin is angled down into the water.
Just kick with a light flutter. It's almost like you just want to make the water bubble, boil. So there's a little white water at the end of your feet. You don't want big splashes coming out.
My father used to always say, pretend you have a piece of gum on the top of your big toe and you're trying to kick it off.
And when you get that even flow, your arms will be even and you'll have that balance. Your rhythm is driven by your legs.
The kick to the swimming stroke is very much like the foundation of a building to the structure of the building. It is the foundation for the stroke because it propels you to the surface and keeps you at the surface and allows your arms and your body to ride high in the water and get that optimum pull.
A perfect stroke was driven by the legs.
Really, in backstroke, you just kick like mad. What the head does is often the opposite of what the body does. So in backstroke, while everything's rolling from side to side, your head stays perfectly still.
In general, your head is sort of a staple. It's one end of your body that has to be perfectly still to really allow all the other movements to rotate around the center of your body, and your head's right in that axis that you swim around.
You need to imagine that you're balancing a teacup or a cup of water or a quarter or something on your forehead, and that it shouldn't fall off.
If your head is moving around when you're swimming backstroke, I think it's really a result of something else that's going wrong in your stroke. An extra movement of any body part that's not propelling your body is really wasted energy.
Backstroke kind of snuck up on me as my best stroke. I've always been someone who liked knowing what was going on around me, see the sun and see the sky, and that pretty much still is the way I am. So in that way, backstroke allowed me to do that.
There's kind of like a nirvana, if you want to call it that you can get from swimming. And swimming for me was my escape. And it became, because of that, it became a part of me.
A dolphin is a beautiful and efficient animal to watch, and I think the flyer wants to emulate that motion as much as possible.
I've always told people that the butterfly was something that picked me. I didn't pick it.
It never really came naturally, as they say. And so it was sort of a long road that enabled me to swim the way I've been able to swim.
The rhythm and the stroke was always something that came very naturally to me, and rarely did I have to have a coach instruct me on something that I could do better in it.
Mary T. Maher, also known as Madam Butterfly, is the world record holder in the 100 and 200 meter butterfly events. She's a 4-time Olympic gold medalist and was a member of 3 United States Olympic teams.
I guess I had the height of my career when I was 16, when I set the 2 world records that still stand in the butterfly, at least up to this point.
Pablo Morales is the fastest butterflyer in the history of the world. During his collegiate career, he won 11 NCAA individual titles, more than any other college athlete on record. After a 3-year layoff, he returned to make the 1992 Olympic team.
I think anyone with a certain amount of effort and work can be able to swim the butterfly in a very beautiful manner, the way the stroke should be swum. A butterflyer should concentrate on entering the water with the fingers pointed forward. A natural width would be about shoulder width apart so that you can extend forward with the stroke.
I think they need to enter relaxed and then stretch forward and then tighten up at the beginning of the catch.
And so the first motion after that extension would be a pushing down and out of the hands. With the catch, like everything else about the stroke, you want to promote forward motion.
In doing it correctly, you can feel your whole forearms working to catch the water and prepare to push it behind you.
You want to keep the elbows up because you want to expose surface area of your forearms and your hands.
It is a common mistake to pull with the elbows first. This causes the water to roll off the forearm and reduces valuable surface area used for propulsion.
You want to be able to maximize that surface area so you can increase the amount of force that you're exerting on the water. So if you think of hands wrapping over a barrel with your hands up, that would be considered the end of the catch phase and the beginning of the power phase.
The hands and arms wrap around to immediately catch water. This provides not only forward propulsion, but lift for high body position.
There's something that's commonly referred to as the hourglass pull. The hands have been extended to a line just outside the shoulders, and as the hands pull back, the hands also begin to move in, creating the top portion of that hourglass shape. And so as the hands exit out the back end, the palms are going to be facing in a direction away from the legs. So as you extend out the back end, you're creating the bottom portion of that hourglass, and you accelerate out the back end into the recovery phase.
You're thinking about pushing your hands back past your bathing suit, the line on your bathing suit, all the way through, and kicking down at the exact same time.
The palms should be facing out away from the legs as you accelerate out the back end with your hands.
A common mistake is to slice the hand through the water before the finish is complete. In this instance, the palm folds and knifes through the water, losing valuable propulsion in the process.
Acceleration out the back end causes a forward propulsion that is very crucial to the stroke. And in coordination with the first beat of your kick, really gives a great deal of propulsive force.
The hands have to be pushing past the end of my bathing suit, and my feet have to be given their big kick down. And then you try to relax on the recovery.
And the recovery phase is an interesting element of the stroke. Whipping out the back end of the stroke creates a certain amount of acceleration to get the arms over in a relaxed and a quick manner.
I'd say the most important part of the recovery is to give your arms a chance to relax, at least for, a half a second, from the moment they finish the big push through at the end of the stroke to the time they enter in the front.
And as the hands recover, as they near the shoulders, there should be a slight bend in the elbows. They shouldn't be extended outward, because your arms would probably accelerate too quickly if you held them really wide. And on the entry, that would probably cause the hands coming together. And that would be an overextension of the stroke and really a waste of energy.
And even entering the front, I think the arms have to be relaxed to a certain point before they actually catch the water. I think they need to enter relaxed and then stretch forward and then tighten up at the beginning of the catch.
If there's any part of the stroke that you could say is the crucial element of the butterfly stroke, it would be the legs or the kick. The kick is really what simulates the dolphin-type motion that you see when a butterflyer swims the butterfly.
There's 2 kicks per stroke, and the first one comes as the arms are entering the water. And when I think about that kick, I think about my hips coming to the surface and even out of the water as you kick down the first time.
A kick is taken as the hands exit out the back end, concurrently with the exit of the hands, and as the hands and the head are entering the water is the second beat.
The second kick, your hips stay in line with the body. You're not pushing your hips up, but you're definitely getting a more powerful kick, and that's the kick that gets your arms out and around on the recovery and ready for their entry. And to me, if someone can put that rhythm together at that point in the stroke, then they're off to a real good start in putting the whole stroke together.
So what I try to think about in terms of timing of the 2 beats of the kick is sort of like a heartbeat. The top end of the stroke, thinking 1 kick, boom, and then thinking a kick, bottom end, boom. And the tempo is sort of like boom, 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 sort of like a heartbeat. Boom, 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 boom. The snap that you're getting, the acceleration that's created at the very tip of your legs, just like a whip. The acceleration of that whip creates that snap and that powerful thrust forward. I feel I'm qualified to do a soccer analogy because I played 4 years of Little League soccer. I didn't get to play a whole lot, which is probably why I became a swimmer. And just watching a soccer player, you can see that when the foot finally follows the shin and the knee and whips through the ball, it really exerts a great deal of explosive forces on the ball. And it's very similar to that when you swim.
I think all the forces come together in getting the momentum going forward. I mean, you're entering with relaxed arms, getting ready to catch the water out in front, and the kick comes so that you can maybe stretch an inch further and have the power to set the arms up in the proper position to pull behind.
The phrase body position is sort of a misnomer because the body is really moving at all times. It's undulating at all times in a dolphin-like manner.
Well, I definitely think that the stomach muscles and the back muscles are what bring the arms and the legs working together, and the head and everything comes together.
Relatively speaking, you want to keep the body position up in the water and exposing a minimal amount of resistive surface areas. You have the chest and the chin being thrust forward as you enter the water. And as you enter the water, or as the hands enter the water, the hips rise up as the downbeat is occurring.
They're both powerful kicks, but one is forcing the hips up, and the second one is your body stays in alignment, but it definitely is just as powerful in getting the arms out and over.
As the hands catch, they're not only pushing back water, but they're also lifting. So you want to take that opportunity to begin the lift phase of your breathing. The apex of your breath should occur as the hands are accelerating out the back end.
You finish the push back, you finish your kick down, and there's almost nothing that's propelling your body forward, and yet you're lifting your head to take a breath at the exact same time.
The hands whip around out the back, and they come around in a relaxed manner, and the head begins its movement downward back into the water where it's placed smoothly. And so as the head is entering the water, the arms and the hands begin to enter the water as well.
A common mistake many butterflyers make is to breathe late. When the head is brought up late, the shoulders lose their foundation and sink, making it very difficult to get a breath.
It's something that I try to concentrate on when I practice, is starting the breath earlier so that the head is not left up on the recovery.
That's why they say the rhythm is so important, is because in order to keep the momentum constantly going forward, using the least amount of energy possible, all those things have to fall into place. And you know, whether or not they breathe early or breathe late, it needs to be a graceful, energy-less stroke.
In putting all the elements together, think about each individual element and try to get that down. But remember that each element can affect a different element of your stroke. There's a great deal of failure that takes place before one achieves success, and that maybe we're not all naturally adapted to the water, and certainly world record holders are no exception to that. And it takes the amount of work to be able to learn how to do it.
In swimming, work is the key. Concentrating on your stroke while giving your body a workout will heighten your enjoyment of the sport while making you a better athlete.
I think that's a common thread behind all good swimmers, is that they're always, whether it's cognitive or natural, there's always an emphasis on the technique as well as the work.
Since repetition is inherent to the stroke cycle, work on one aspect of your stroke until the change you want becomes habit. A single change doesn't take long.
The key to improving technique is watching someone who does it correctly and listening to how they explain it, and then taking that and try to get into a pool, and with your eyes closed, try to go through the same steps and relaxing.
Work on your stroke piece by piece, and soon you'll be putting everything together to make a smoother, faster, more efficient, and enjoyable stroke.
As my stroke has developed over the years, so has my training personality. Using every portion of a workout, every single set that's given to you, as an opportunity to become a better swimmer.
People use the word potential, being the best you can be. There's some cliches, but I think for me, swimming really provided this because it's you in that lane by yourself.
Personality-wise, I think it just allowed me to develop the type of person that I am, and it just helped me put even more faith in working hard and working at something.
As swimmers, you are part of the most popular fitness activity in the world. Until now, there has been little guidance for those of you who wish to improve. To answer your questions on swimming fitness, see Basic Training from the Fast Lane. And for more in-depth stroke analysis, pick up our third tape, Advanced Technique from the Fast Lane. Both of these tapes continue the forum of world-class athletes and swimming experts.
Heck yeah, I'm gonna swim. I'll be swimming until they put me 6 feet under.
Technique is important, so important that even a world